Okay, what we're working on today is our donor motor 302. Good used motor. We're freshening it up. It's going to go in this pickup here. And so what we've done is we put a new oil pump on it and drive shaft. New timing set. Now, a note on timing. Nate, down here. You'll see there's a dot here and here. And as you can see, that does line up with the keeper. Then you look here. On your cam, you have a little roll pin that goes in there. So you'll put this together, slide on, making sure you keep your dots lined up. And that's going to give you number one. So when we go to put the distributor in, we'll already know we're at number one compression stroke, ready to set our timing in. So now what we're going to do is we're going to put on our fuel pump eccentric, which you can see has a little tit there. And it's going to go into this hole here to hold it. And as you can see, it's off center. So as that comes around, it pushes on the fuel pump shaft to pump it up and down. And so it sits there and rides and pumps fuel up to your carburetor. Now on this one, we're probably going to run a block off plate because we have electric fuel pump on the pickup already. But we're going to keep this in place. So if we ever change anything, or say we pull this motor and sell it and decide to go bigger, better, badder, whatever, who knows, come and swap. You never know with us. But for now, that way it's set up that if person ever needed it, it's with the motor like it should be. All right, go till it clicks. Nate, kind of get close. I'll try to, I don't know if we can get this. I'll get down here, maybe I'll pick it up. But your torque wrench will just click. When you're at torque, you don't go past that. When it clicks, you stop. Otherwise, you'll break bolts off. Not a good policy. Now we're going to clean up some gasket surface areas. I did it with a razor blade knife, and that's adequate. But if you have air and you have the air tool available, I'll show you what works really good is Scotch pad. We do not do those on head gasket surfaces, though. You'll get some warpage. But for your timing covers, it cleans them up really nice. And 1,000's not going to matter on that type of gasket. You never use them on a head surface. On your block, you always clean the block. And if you're worried that you want a little clean, take a longboard sander, lightly touch it off just to get any little residue with like a 120 grit or even a 200 grit paper. But that way you aren't creating this on the block because you're trying to do it with a little disc that big around. All right, what we're going to do here is we got a 90-degree angled die grinder with the roll lock. Let me show you how that you change these. They literally just twist like that and just turn them in, and that's all there is to it. And this is going to give us a nice gasket surface. So show them here where we're at. They can see it's kind of dirty. This will really just make it nice, shiny metal that we know we're getting great adhesion on our gaskets. Clean off the grease and oil so we don't just plug our roll locks up. We're going to just hit it with a little brake cleaner on a rig. And that way any oily residue, anything we can clean off. And that way we aren't just plugging up our roll locks. So we'll just do a nice little wipe down. And that way kind of hit anything in the valley, just kind of wipe it out in case any dust got in there or what have you. All right, so now we're going to wipe it down again. And you can see it's really left it clean to where the surface is good, where the gasket will actually stick to it, not have any imperfections holding your gasket up, especially around your water ports. You want to be pretty critical there, otherwise water will just leak right in your cylinders. So make sure you got them clean. We have the last surface here, and then we're going to roll over and do the pan gasket and show you the bottom end of this. All right, you see how much cleaner this is now? You have a really nice surface to work on. I want to hit that a little more there. So if you see an area, go back and hit it again. You know, we're doing the video, but still got to go back and look. Everybody does it. All right, we're going to spin this upside down. So you pull your little pin, you got a little keeper your engine stand comes with, and it goes in the hole here. So say you were doing your heads, you'd stop there, and that way you aren't trying to do it on an angle. You actually got the head surface there. And it probably, let's see how good they drilled this. Not real great. So that's as level as you're going to get, but still a whole lot better than trying to hold them sideways. So, all right, coming on over. All right, so now we're going to do our pan gasket. We got our new oil pumps installed. And then we're going to just wash down the whole bottom end, clean it off decently so it's all fresh. We'll lay some blue towels over here to kind of keep anything off the crank and the bearings. We really need sponsored by Scott. Scott, if you're watching, send us blue towels. We could use them. All right, now we can clean that surface off. All right, guys, let's look at the bottom end. We just flushed it. Now we want to check to make sure that there is nothing. Okay, there's some paper towel in there. There's nothing here. Let's look at the bottom end and see what it looks like here. We were just washing it down with a little brake cleaner, just any dust that got on. That way it's not in your motor. All right, here we go. And we're going to recheck the torque on these, but let's look stuff over.
What kind of stuff?
Oh, look at that. Well, that's not good, guys. We don't want our main bolts being finger tight. So good thing we were checking. So, you know what? We may pull that just to look at it, make sure what she looks at, and then we'll re-torque it here. I got to Google to find out what our main cap torque settings for the 302 are. 60 to 70 foot-pounds is what our torque should be. So, we're going to need to grab us a socket and do that. So we're going to just zip this off real quick, take a look, make sure there's nothing on the crank we need to be aware of. That being loose, let's check. Okay, so just take and lightly give number 3 a tap. Now, I want you to notice right here, Nate, show them. These are all in line, and that's going to the forward of the motor. See the arrows? So you know, when you do them, they need to be pointing forward, and this is number 3. So this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So keep them in order. Okay, and this is your thrust bearing. You have a thrust on the side. This is the only bearing that will have it, and that's in the center. And you can check your thrust right there. You'll take and pry your crank back and check with filler gauge for your distance. But right now, we're just looking to make sure we don't have anything bad bearing-wise, and we look good. So we're going to not fuss with this one, but we'll check all of them while we're here just to make sure none of them loosened up. Now let's get, what did I do with my torque wrench, Nate? Oh, we need that. Then what did I do with oh, it's on here. Okay, we're right now just at like 30 pounds. So we're just going to kind of initially set them in at that, and then we'll work our way to 60. And when we get a little more horsepower on it, you'll hear it snap better. And in this one, if you kind of blow past the light one, doesn't matter. You're just getting going. So we're going to run this up here to, we'll go to about 50 pounds, and we'll do 70. So there we are, right at the 50 mark. So you just release your collar and spin this and run it up to the mark. And your 0 marks here, not that you can probably see it too good, but, and your 50's on this scale. So make sure it's locked in, and then just hear that pop. Okay, now we'll go to our 70, and then we're going to just, you don't want backing that off. Hold the trophy truck up here. We're going to go to, What did we just do, Nate? 50?
Yeah.
Okay, we're just gonna, while we're here, just make sure, yeah, those are all no give there. So, but we'll run them 70, but this way we know that they're all torqued. So, well, shoot. All right, well, I guess we'll be pulling that. All right, well, we'll get to show you under the oil pump since I'd already jumped ahead this morning, was feeling all ambitious and put it on here. So you get to see the drive gear and the oil pump, how that all interfaces, which will run up to, or not drive gear, the drive shaft for the oil pump, which runs off the bottom of your distributor on these older motors. Of course, the new stuff doesn't have distributors. They got coil packs, so that part don't apply. But as you'll see right there, it's your drive shaft. Now shine our camera down there, Nate. See that hole? That is the bottom of your drive shaft. And we're going to show you that real quick. So see how that has a washer on it? That just sits there to make it handy for you to put your pump on. And then here's your gasket for it. So for the moment, we'll set that aside, torque these up. Well, there went my gasket. All right, okay, we're good there. Now to 70. All right, there we go. Looking good, guys. Oh, why that one backed up? And of course, these ones we'd only done at 50, so we expect them to have, and a lot of times you might need to use your body to help you on your stand because it wants to roll. You do the big cat motors, Cummins, that kind of stuff, and then you get out the big torque wrench, which I have one over against the wall there, and that case looks like a gun there because that's about a 5 foot 3/4 inch torque wrench that goes up to 300 foot-pounds to torque the head bolts on a Cat or Cummins. Okay, so there's your drive for your oil pump right there. So you're just gonna set your gasket on now. Let's see here. Now we may want to trim a little that away, and you can just, as far as that goes, you can just tear off the little tab there that's interfering with the counterweight on the crank. So, and it will, well, that lousy. There we go. So, and if it hits that gas, it's not going to hurt nothing. It'll just peel it off, but might as well get it out of there before. Okay, and then set down on your shaft there. Okay, then run your bolts in. And typical kind of figure for a 3/8 bolt, not that I can get my torque wrench in there, but usually if you're 30 pounds on them, you're good. Now, here's another thing we're going to do, just because from doing trucks, and I think it's a good policy. We don't know. That one was loose. Why was it loose? My guess is that it get torqued. And we're going to show you how you prevent that. To where you know for a fact, and anybody going in behind you knows that it has, get yourself a paint pen. Now, I think I got one right here in hand. I do. Doesn't matter what color, it's going to be green. But just take it. We know we torqued every one of those. Now, when you have a lot of head bolts like on a Cat, I'm going to do the two next to each other. I'm going to mark them. There's 30 of them. So you saw me do all these, so we know we're torqued. This way also, if anybody turns this motor over down the road and they see they're all straight line like this, what if those are turned? They know instantly, why is that one turned? Everyone is straight line. So it's just a good habit to get into on your head bolts and everything. It just looks more professional because it is. You do not go to Caterpillar or Cummins and they're going to torque a motor. You're going to open up and you're going to see every one of these are torques. They call it torque striping them because they're putting a stripe on them, showing that they were clearly torqued. You know, that one. A little oil there. There, but at least got a slop on there. But that's a good policy to go through. And we'll probably go through and just hit the rods a little bit just to make sure we don't got any loose ones while we're here. So, all right, moving along. Let's tighten this down. You don't got to get wild, but you got to know that you're tight. And you know what? If you're new to this, you know what? I'm not against, even just like now, to where you know, as you go around your motor, torque stripe them babies. That way you know that you have tightened it. That way, if you look, because you never know when someone's going to text you, your girlfriend's going to stop by, whatever. You get a phone call, anything can happen. You leave the motor. Guess what? You forget where you're at. If you're doing this along the way, you know immediately, oh, I didn't do that yet. I need to finish. Helps keep from forgetting because stuff does come up. As much as you like a sterile environment where no one's bothering you when you're doing this kind of stuff, don't trust it. There's always something that'll come up. So just take the extra time, buy yourself a little paint pen, wherever, hardware store, auto parts stores have them, and just keep it in your toolbox so you can mark when you're doing stuff like this. It's more critical. And it works good on chassis because a lot of times, you know, you want your ball joints tight. There's all kinds of stuff that are pretty critical bolts you're working on, and you want to know that you got them. Keeps tires from falling off, stuff like that, you know, wheels, and having a bad day. Okay, now we got a mixed deal on this motor. So it says 22 to 25 for 302 if it's a Boss or a high output. Then it jumps to 40 to 45. So in this case, we're going to jump right in the dead middle just because my torque wrench is one reason. We're going to go 30. 30 aren't going to break bolts. We're going to know they're tight. We're just checking them. And let's kind of see what they have them at. Okay. Yeah, they're right there. Okay. Alrighty. So that's the bottom end torque. We know we don't have any other loose bolts besides the one that was just whatever reason, but we got it. All right, now we're going to torque stripe these. Let's keep consistent. So now we're going to put the pan on. We got to get our gasket ready. Yeah. All right, where we got this used, he added a part. I believe we're missing the bolts for the front, so we're going to have to run and get some bolts to put our front cover on. All right, guys, we're at a jump off point. Our water pump we have is wrong. But in looking, I think we're going to probably change this front cover, the timing chain cover, water pump cover, housing, all of them one, to probably what's on here due to the bracketry to fit into this pickup with the serpentine belt. This was a V-belt setup. So we're going to probably do a little changing. So I'll get that all figured out, get the parts assembled, get stuff cleaned, because y'all don't want to watch me cleaning parts. It ain't any more fun when you do it for me to do it. So we'll spare you that gruesome details. But then we'll jump back into part 2 as we start assembling this together and try to get the motor assembled, painted, ready to go in the pickup. So like and subscribe and stay tuned for part 2 of our little motor build. And then part 3 will be putting it in the pickup and getting all new motor mounts, getting all that stuff done to where we got a complete running, driving pickup.